Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm Brett Davis. Joining me today is the Center Square's Eastern Washington reporter, Tim Schumann. The story you wrote headline this week was What Spokane's Drug Possession Laws Could Look Like Without State Blake Fix. The Blake Fix is a reference to lawmakers failing to pass Senate Bill 5536, which was intended to create a solution to a 2021 state Supreme Court decision which basically decriminalized controlled substances. There was a stopgap measure passed later that year, but that expires on July 1. Complicating matters is the fact that Governor Inslee has called a special session to start on May 16th to address this. So according to your story, it looks like the Spokane City Council has gone ahead and come up with their own ordinance on drug possession. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the general consensus on the council is that if the state legislature had 105 days to come to an agreement and they didn't, they're very unlikely to in whatever remaining time they have left. So the problem that they're running into is that as of June 30th of this year, drug possession will be de facto legal. There will be no penalty for it in Washington state. And so the Spokane City Council decided that they don't want that in their city. And so they started crafting their own legislation to take up the stopgap when that law expires on the 1st of July.
So what exactly does this ordinance do?
So this ordinance, as it's currently crafted, has not yet been read in front of city council. So there was a prior ordinance that the mayor and two of her supporters on the council had put forward, and the opposing faction in the city council kept saying, let's wait and see what the state does. Let's wait and see what the state does. And then the state didn't come to any agreement. And as soon as the state, failed to come to an agreement, that opposing faction essentially tabled the ordinance that was put forward by the mayor and her allies in the city council, and they substituted their own version that was, as near as I can tell, very similar. There's a few minor changes, but ultimately the first reading is going to be next Monday.
I see. So I understand some of the wording in the ordinance is of concern to law enforcement. They're worried about something in that regard. Can you delve into that a little more?
Yeah. So part of the ordinance as it was being discussed in the city council meeting this week was that every first interaction with law enforcement related to drug possession would essentially be a warning. It would be an unenforceable, unarrestable offense, saying like, we're going to cite you for this and then let you go. And there's no recourse we have to do anything but cite you for this and let you go. And what the police were concerned with is that because Washington does not have any stop and identify laws, i.e. they can't detain people for refusing to say who they are or what they're doing, and the offense is unarrestable as a crime, that means that if someone was, possessing, doing drugs, sitting on a street corner, and an officer comes up and says, I need to cite you for this, they could essentially say, don't know what you're talking about, don't know who I am, and walk away.
So I'm guessing there's a chance that could possibly be reworded or changed in some fashion.
It sounds like, based on my conversations with a few members of council and the mayor yesterday, that wording is being retooled to become more in line with, the misdemeanor / gross misdemeanor offenses where an individual could potentially be arrested for an infraction on the first interaction.
Is there any concern that the state will actually go ahead and pass a law and make this unnecessary, or are they just going to go ahead and move forward anyway?
There is concern, but it sounds like they're going ahead and moving forward, potentially even passing something by emergency ordinance as early as next week or the following week. That's the current temperature of that.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Tim Schumann, I'm Brett Davis. Please subscribe, and thanks for listening.